Hi, everybody. Welcome to this informational session on the new Wyckoff Analytics course, Demystifying Position Sizing. My name is RJ Hixson, and I am the instructor for the course, and want to talk to you a little bit about the course itself and then a little bit about position sizing. So before I do that, however, first let's take care of some business. The following presentation is for educational purposes only. I am not a financial professional with any kind of license. Before pursuing any trading ideas, check first with your financial professional. And the full disclaimer appears at the end of this video. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the course, Demystifying Position Sizing, Optimizing Risk and Reward. The live sessions will happen from mid-July to late July. And during this session, I want to talk a little bit about the position sizing topic in general, and then a little bit about the course. So to start us off, let's consider the definition for position sizing. What is position sizing? For our purposes here, and for the purposes of the course, I'm going to refer to it as the part of your trading that tells you how much to risk before you trade, before entering a trade, and while you are in the trade. So is position sizing important? Well, behind psychology, I'm going to express a personal belief here. Behind psychology, position sizing is the single biggest factor in whether you make millions, bust, or wherever you wind up in between in your trading. Now, not sure that hits you hard enough, so I emphasized with a little bit of highlighting here some key words. Behind psychology, position sizing is the single biggest factor in whether you make millions, whether you go bust, or wherever you wind up somewhere in between. I could go on for hours and hours about position sizing, and I have in the past. But without understanding this statement, without appreciating the power of this statement, all of that's going to sound like blah, blah, blah. So in my experience, the best way to appreciate the power of this statement is for you to have an experience, a personal experience about position sizing. So let's play a game. Not very complicated. You're just going to need a piece of paper, pen or pencil. And let me talk to you about the objective and the rules. So the objective is that you make more money than me. We're going to have 10 trades, and you don't have to worry about how things look on the charts. You don't have to worry about entries. You don't have to worry about exits. You're just going to calculate the risk amount per trade for 10 trades. So imagine this is an automated system, and before each trade gets executed, you have to specify what the risk amount is for each trade. So your starting equity is going to be $100,000. There's no leverage, and you can only go long, only long trades. You have to risk at least $100 per trade. There's no sitting on the sidelines in cash. So $100 out of 100,000, no, minimal basis points, right? So, and I have a bag, actually I have a bowl with marbles in it that represent the reward to risk. So in this bowl, rather than I do have a leather bag, but it's just easier to go quicker with a few marbles in a quick game like this. Each of the colored marbles has an associated R multiple value. So in the mix is one pearl colored marble. It has a -5 R multiple. Now what that means is if you risk $100 on a trade and I pull out the pearl marble, that means you have a loss of 5, whatever you risk. So minus 5 times 100 is -$500. So you would lose $500 on that trade. You would adjust your equity. There are 3 green marbles, and each of those has a value of a -1 R. So you lose what you risked. So if you risked $100 and I pull out a green marble, that means you lose $100. There are 7 black marbles. Each of those has a +1 R multiple value. That means if you risk $100 and I pull out a black marble, then you just earned $100 and add that to your equity. There is one blue marble in the bag, and that has a 10R. So if you risk $100 and the blue marble comes out, that means you just made $1,000 on that trade. Now, there's 12 marbles in the game here in the bowl, and they get replaced each time. So this mix does not change. So you've got a 75% winning rate on this system, and the average R multiple is 0.75. So over time, over many trades, you could expect to earn 75 cents for every dollar that you risked. So decent system, pretty good. Maybe better than some of the ones you've traded, maybe not. In any case, this is what we're going to be trading today for 10 trades. Now, to set up your tracking sheet, you'll need 4 columns or 5. So trade, there's going to be 1 through 10. The risk amount that you're going to be putting on the trade, the R multiple, basically the marble that I pull out of the bowl. And then if that translates into a win or loss for you, and then you adjust your equity based on that win or loss. So again, you're starting off with $100,000. To help you see how this works, let's look at a partially filled out sheet. This sheet has 3 trades on it. In the first trade, this trader risked $100. One of the black marbles came out, so it's a +1, and the trader won $100. So 100,000 plus 100 is $100,100. Second trade, a little bit more confidence perhaps. Trader risked $500. Had a green marble come out, -1R. So lost by $100. So now equity's down to 99,600. Third trade, trader risked $1,000. Another black marble came out, so the trade earned 1,000. So that gets added to equity. So now the equity is at $100,000 and $100,600. Okay. So, and then you just keep going down through trade number 10. Recommendation, use round numbers, tens, hundreds, or thousands. You don't have time to be doing a lot of math. This game's going to move along pretty quickly. There's going to be about 30 seconds between the trades. So you're going to be figuring out what you're going to risk, hearing the R multiple, quick math about the win or the loss, and then adjusting the equity and coming up with your next risk amount. Okay, so again, try to keep it very simple. And just so you can review here before we start playing the game, if you want to take a look at these, press pause. When you're ready to play, click on the play button again. Now, I'm going to switch over so I can show you the marbles. And okay, so here's the bowl. It's a little IKEA rice bowl, nothing fancy. No secret compartments, nothing funny going on. These are the marbles. 1 pearl, 1 blue, 3 greens, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 black, all as advertised. No funny business with extra marbles on the table here or anything. It's people get concerned about that. It's like the game is interesting enough and useful enough that we don't have to play any games other than the game itself here. Okay, so get your risk amount ready for trade number 1. Write that on your sheet, and I will mix the bowl, not look at what I'm pulling. And what came out? A black marble. So what is a black? It's a +1R. So whatever you risked, you just earned that amount and add that amount to your new equity. So you have a new equity figure, and then get ready for the risk amount on trade number 2. Again, keep it simple so you can move fast. Okay, ready? So trade number 2. Mix up the marbles, pull one out at random, black, +1R. So again, whatever you risked, you now just earn that, and you can add that to your equity, come up with a new equity figure, and determine the risk amount for trade number 3. I'm using a spreadsheet here because I'm watching the timing, I'm pulling the marbles, and I'm trying to keep things moving along here. All right. And no fancy math in the spreadsheet. Multiplication, addition, division. So trade number 3, risk amount. Pick that out. Get ready for the third marble to come out of the bowl. So the third marble is, green. What is a green? Green is a -1. So whatever you risked, that is now the amount that you lost in that trade. So -1R, lose what you risked, subtract that from your equity, and let's move to trade number 4. What is your risk amount based on your new equity? All right, trade number 4. Pull out this one, another black, +1R. So you're going to win whatever you just risked. Add that to your equity and figure out the risk amount for trade number 6. All right. Risk amount ready. Trade number 6. They're all still in there. Another black, the +1R. So you just earned what you risked. And prepare your risk amount for trade number 7. Trade number 7. All right. Mix these up, pull one out. It's a black. So you, again, +1R, you win what you risked, add that to your equity, and come up with the risk amount for trade number 8. 3 more trades. All right. Trade number 8 is, the pearl. The pearl. Ooh, look at that. -5R. So whatever you risked, multiply that by 5 and subtract that from your equity. That's a big one. Does that hurt? Ever have a trade like that? Okay. So because nobody can go long, that's going to ding your equity. So subtract the amount you risked times 5 from your equity in trade 7, come up with a new equity amount, and then get ready with risk for number 9. All right, my risk is in. Give you a second. Trade number 9. Let's see what we get here. Black +1R, whatever you risked, you just earned. Add that to your equity, and then get ready for the risk amount for the last trade, trade number 10. Let's see what we get. How's your equity looking? I'll let you know mine here in just a minute. Last trade. Okay, here it is. Green, -1R. So whatever you risked on trade number 10, subtract that amount from your equity and look at your ending equity amount. Okay, so how did you do? I wound up with $210,000. Did you have a higher ending equity or a lower one? Did you go bust? It wouldn't be surprising. But why are our results different? Why did your equity differ from mine? Well, There's a couple reasons for that. And what we've seen is if we go and play this game with 100 people, what we'll typically find is that there are as many different ending equity numbers as there are people in the room, with the exception of the people that go bust. So if 100 people are playing and 15 people go bust, then the rest of the other 85 people have very different ending equity amounts. So we did this with a group of folks, Adam, Maria, Angel, and Yuri. They traded the same marbles. They had the same marble bag, and they played for 20. But let's look at their results here real quick. You can see some additional data based on the game we were just playing. So after 10 trades, Adam's at 111,000, Maria is at 271,000, Angel is at 167,000, and Yuri's at 245,000. Now, if we look at the equity curve, you'll see that Maria actually almost got to 400,000. She almost quadrupled her money in less than 10 trades. Yuri and Angel are up about double what they started with, and Adam is down there. He's got a nice straight equity line, but it's just chugging along. So let's see. There's 10 more trades. We actually let these folks play 20. And in the second 10 trades, look at that bottom row, the ending equity amount. Adam finished up at 108,000, Maria at 78,000. So she lost. She started at 100,000 and wound up with less. Angel at 134,000 and Yuri at 234,000. Let's look at their equity curves. So you can see Maria was up there flying high and then crashing to the ground. Actually, she wound up with money, but she less than she started with. Yuri got up there and stayed up there. Angel, on the other hand, got up a good bit and then came back down. So they had one of those pearl marbles that cost them dearly, some of them dearly. And then Adam just kind of kept chugging along. So if we look at the results, the return for each of these folks, 9% return for Adam. Maria lost 22%. Angel had a 34% return on her equity, and Yuri more than doubled his equity. Let's look at the drawdowns. We have between the smallest, 6% for Adam, all the way up to Maria's 85%. So she didn't lose 100%, but she had a drawdown of 85%. Anybody ever had one of those? Oof. Now consider the ratio between the return and the drawdown. So those range as well. So Maria's was negative. Adam's was 1.5. Angel had about a 1-to-1 ratio, but Yuri, look at Yuri. He's got about 11-to-1 return to max drawdown ratio. Interesting. So very different results. They all got the same trades, though. They all had the same sequence of R multiples and the same R multiples. Why the different amounts? Well, there's actually three key factors that work in the game. So first of all, there's a positive expectancy system. You should have been able to make money unless there was an unusual, a very low probability of multiple minus R multiple marbles coming out of the sample. Everybody should have been able to make money. Psychology and discipline. So your psychology helped you figure out which objectives to set, which strategies to follow. Your discipline helped you either stick with the strategies or change strategy along the way or change objectives. And then finally, of course, there's position sizing strategies. You used a different position sizing strategy than I did. Your position sizing strategy was different than Adam's and Yuri's and Maria's and Angel's. I use a different position sizing also. So all of our position sizing strategies differed, and all of us made differing amounts of money. So if you'd like to learn the strategies that each of those players used in the game, you'll get a chance to do that in the third session of the upcoming course. I'll also talk about the strategy I was using and see if any of those fit you, fit your psychology, fit your objectives. So now some of you might be thinking, well, okay, position sizing is not really much more complicated than using good stop losses, right? No, The game we just played can prove that. Everybody wound up with different equities, but it didn't come from adjusting the stops. Everybody had the same stop adjustment. It was already incorporated into the R multiple. So the position size, risk, and reward management happens at the trade level, it happens at the system level, and it happens at the equity level. A stop is one component of your risk management system, but it is not position sizing. Position sizing strategies use stops and are much more complicated than that. Now, you might also be asking, can't I just use fixed percent? And absolutely, fixed percentage position sizing strategy is a valid strategy. Now, there's some questions you might want to consider also. Is it the best strategy for your objectives? Maybe, maybe not. If it is the best strategy for your objectives, are you using the right percentage figure for your system and for your objectives? If you're making as much money as you'd like to make or more, and your drawdowns are smaller than the kind of drawdown size you're willing to endure, then you're good to go. You may not understand a lot or much about position sizing strategies, but actually you do, and you're applying it. For anybody else, uh, position sizing knowledge can come in very, very useful. All right. And some of people might be wondering, well, isn't there a lot of math involved in position sizing strategies? And frankly, there is some, not a lot, but nothing that simple spreadsheets can't handle. The more important part about position sizing strategies is answering key questions about you and your trading. So I'll make you a promise based on some traders I know. Traders who learn position sizing think differently about trades, systems, and trading. This course has the potential to shift your paradigm about trades, systems, and trading. The good news is you don't have to go and change all of your trading to benefit from better position sizing strategies. You can keep trading right now the way you're trading, assuming you're profitable and relatively consistent about that. But just change the position sizing strategies and wind up with some very different results. All right. So next, I want to go through that's the basics of position sizing. I want to go through some of the topics in the course and see if any of these are questions that you have and questions that you might benefit from learning in the course. So the first session is about position sizing basics. So what are the components required for building strong financial objectives? We actually start the position sizing strategy conversation with objectives. And generally, yes, people want to make a lot of money, but it's much more complicated than saying, I want to make a lot of money. There's some quantification to work on and some qualification to work on so that you've got really strong objectives so that you can craft really effective position sizing strategies. All right, now I've been talking about systems, but what is a trading system? I've referenced that. I've used that term several times in this session. If you're not sure, then we'll define trading systems and help you put your trades into systems. It's a matter of categorization and grouping, and there are some elements to a trading system that we'll talk about so that you can understand that. And then a lot of position sizing depends on having an understanding of how the system performs. All right, next question. What are the different ways we determine and measure risk in a trade? There's not just one, there's actually two dimensions of risk in trades, and it's important to be clear about those so that you're not confusing yourself or confusing others if you're talking to others about it. Why does using dollars and euros, or any currency for that matter, in talking about trade risk lead to confusion between objectives and risk? It's better to think in different terms, separate terms, when you're thinking about objectives and risk and position sizing. It actually breaks down into three different domains. So we'll talk about how to communicate those ideas in different ways without using dollars and euros in any kind of currency symbols or terms. Okay. So in the second session, we're going to be going into a little bit more detailed aspects about position sizing strategies now that we've got the basics out of the way. And just so you know, I'm covering the top items here. I'm probably touching on 1/3 of the content that's in each of the sessions. But in the second session, how does your psychology drive objectives and your position sizing? So there's three main groups or three main types of traders based on psychology. So if you understand which one of those you fall into, it makes it a lot easier figuring out your objectives and figuring out your strategies and aligning with those. If you don't know the difference between those three and you pick a set of objectives or a strategy that doesn't match with you, you're going to have a hard time sticking with those because they don't fit. So understanding what kind of trader you are out of the three, and then being able to pick the aligned objectives and strategies is really helpful. So what's the optimal process for defining your financial objectives? There's two or more ways to figure out your financial objectives, and one of those ways will get you into some trouble. The other way will keep you much more safe, and it's not obvious, it's not intuitive about how to do that, but then we'll cover about how to do that and why. So why is the expectancy by itself a horrible measure of system performance? Now, if you don't know what expectancy is, we'll explain that. If you do know what expectancy is, that's better than nothing, but it misses one whole dimension of system performance. And once you understand that, once you see that, you won't be able to trade again without being able to know that other dimension and being able to understand how it affects your position sizing strategies. Okay. How can you measure system performance with a single metric that helps you determine effective position sizing strategies quickly? So this is an invention of Dr. Van K. Tharp, and we're going to cover it and see how a quick spreadsheet calculation can help you pick an effective position sizing strategy relatively quickly and without too much trouble. So there's many measures of performance, but there's one specifically that helps with position sizing strategies that we'll be going over. Okay, so that once we have the basics and the elements out of the way, we will actually get into strategies in the third session. So in the third session, I'll explain each of the strategies that these traders were using and how they wound up with those ending equities that they did. Between the four of them, they used I think 5 different strategies. So we'll go into those, and you'll have a better understanding and see if any of those fit you. So beyond their strategies, we'll be also going into 3 more different kinds of position sizing strategies that also generate very different ending equities. You'll be able to apply those at the conclusion of the course, or combine them and use some new combination for your trades. You can get very creative with position sizing strategies, and with just a few pieces, you can also get very complicated, but you don't have to. Each of those traders that you saw in earlier, Adam and Angel and Yuri and Maria, they were using simple position sizing strategies. One of those traders combined 2 simple ones and had a pretty good result. Okay. There's a simple calculation that many traders, I have to wonder if most traders ignore, that would prevent you from being wiped out or prevent a wipeout of your equity if a black swan event occurs. So it's not hard to calculate, and it's something that most folks don't think about most of the time. And you don't have to, because black swans don't come along very frequently. But if one did, and you took care of this, you could have some assurance of surviving and getting ready for the next trade. All right, finally, we will finish up the third session with a development process. There is a process for developing effective position sizing strategies that help you get to your financial objectives. So we've talked about a whole bunch of different elements and basics that go into this process, but having a really good sequence of steps to go through would be really useful for you, and we'll provide that. It's more of it's not a checklist so much as it is a set of steps. And if you follow those steps in order, it's much easier to go through the process as well as come out with a really good position sizing strategy for you. Okay. So again, I just touched on probably about a third of the topics that we're actually going to cover. Some of these go very quickly, and some of them are get integrated into multiple sections. But that's basically the course and the main areas. All right, let's talk a little bit about logistics. The course is going to happen in July. Starts on July 11th with the release of the first recorded session and finishes on the 31st with the final live Q&A session. The idea is that you can watch the recorded session, study that for a week, see if you have any questions, and if you do, either attend the live Q&A session, or if you're not able to do that, send in your question and we can address it on the live Q&A. The live Q&A sessions will be recorded, so you'll be able to watch those later. Each of those happens on a Thursday afternoon, 3 p.m. Pacific time, and there'll be 3 weeks in a row, 17th, 24th, and 31st. So that's when the course will happen. Let's look at what you get with the course. You'll get full access to the recordings, both the material that I record as a lecture and then the Q&A sessions. At the moment, there's at least 4.5 hours of learning lectures. That's probably going to extend a little bit. I'm putting everything together still right now. And it's at least 4.5. It's going to be likely a little bit longer. You will be able to download the slides, and there are likely to be more than one tool. Right now, I've got one spreadsheet, but by the time I'm finished putting everything together, it might be 2 or 3. We'll see. And finally, you get, of course, to ask questions at the live Q&A session. And again, those will be recorded. So that's what you get. But if I could summarize what you'll come away with, I tried to distill down the topics here and not get very specific about any one item. I think you'll come away with useful new ways to think about risks and rewards in your trading. You'll come away with a methodology to link your trading to your financial objectives, and not just link it in I hope this works out, but in a way that you can have some confidence in, that based on what you're trading, how you're managing your risks, what kind of rewards you should be able to generate. And finally, you get to keep the trading that you're doing now as you're doing it now. This course does not ask you to change or require you to change how you look at charts, how you get into trades, how you get out of trades. It simply focuses on letting you do that and then applying a new way to manage your risk, manage your rewards. Okay, the investment for the course is $500. And I'd invite you to think about that as a 1R on a high R multiple potential trade. Think of it this way. If you could consider the equity that you're trading right now and earn just 1% more on that per year for the next several years, what would that total? If you want to take the flip side of that, if you were able to trim your average drawdown or avoid your worst drawdown by 1% or more, actually less, a smaller drawdown, what would that be worth to you next year and for multiple years? Now, you can think in terms of this not just being a 5 or 10 R trade, but a 10 or 100 or higher R trade. And I say that based on some experience. We've taught position sizing. I've taught position sizing strategies for a long time. And some of the traders that I have taught this to have applied it very well and now live on warm islands with nice beaches. We have other clients who were not interested in moving to an island, but were interested in cutting their trading down from full-time down to part-time and doing better financially and leaving their children or their grandchildren large sums. So uh, I'd invite you to register for the course. Click on the Enroll Now button. For those of you interested, there is a payment plan that'll be available up until we get closer to the course. Once we're close to July, it's not going to be easy to spread payments over a couple of months because there won't be a couple of months left. Let me show the disclosure next, and then I'll finish up with a few final words. So this is the full disclaimer. If you'd like to read it in full, go ahead and press pause. And let me finish up with just a few thoughts. I hope you have enjoyed our time together in this webinar and you got learned something out of the game. As I've been putting this course together, it's interesting. In the past, I've had very introductory level material, which is a little bit more than this webinar, but not much. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I've had full day webinars, full day workshops on the topic where we go very much in depth. This is kind of a hybrid. It's kind of the 2080 version. I'm going to focus on the 20% of the most important areas for position sizing strategies, and you'll get 80% of the value out of that. It's a new way that I'm approaching the topic, and it's proving really interesting for me. So if you register, my personal promise for you is that you'll find the material understandable, first of all, that you'll find it interesting, and that you'll find it very applicable, that you'll be able to put this to use in short term. I'm avoiding the blah, blah, blah in the course. So click the Enroll Now button, and I look forward to seeing you in the course in July.